And welcome to the Inside Football Podcast. My name's Andy Taylor. I'm joined by Kiwi, Stuart and Isaac as usual. And to bring you a slightly special podcast, we ran a little bit long last week and we don't want to upset Aaron again. That's the second episode I've said this now. But instead of having an hour and 30 episode like we did last week, we're splitting it up where we've got a preview podcast. So if you haven't listened to that already, go and find that. And we'll have this one set up because we're going to talk about the youth contact, unders, juniors, whatever we're calling them, under 19s, under 16s. We're going to talk about those alignments that got announced just before Christmas. And again, we're all itching to talk about it. Certainly I am. I've been wanting to get on the mic and talk about this for quite a while now. So let's get straight into it. So we're not hanging around too long for this. We're going to dive straight into the under 19s Division 1, which looks entirely different this year than it did last year. And Kiwi, I'm going to set you up first time because I'm going to bring on the screen the alignments, and we'll see how we do with this sort of format of showing you who's where and going through it. But we had four nice divisions last year in Division 1 under 19s. Now we've got five. Don't like odd numbers, me. But then we've got another odd number. Anyway, we've got a Scottish division. So presumably, Kiwi, this is all to try and reduce that travel and so on. But we're joined in this year in under 19s Div 1 by the Highland Wildcats, who didn't have a team in this division last year, which is great to see.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's always nice to see new teams coming through in the unders because it only makes our, adult contact leagues, both women's and mixed contact, better, more successful, stronger to keep talent. And, we all know my thoughts and feelings for anyone who's listened to the last couple of weeks of podcasts on trips to Scotland and multiple trips to Scotland. Just to clarify, though, it's not just flagged that I've done that. When I played women's contact back in the days of fives and when we first started playing sevens, I've also done travel to EKP and to Edinburgh when I was playing in Cheshire. So, it is difficult. And so I think it's quite nice that we've seen, this development of being able to have a Scottish league. Generally in a lot of formats, you see kind of only one or two Scottish teams who then have to do that extra travel back the other way into England more frequently as well. So, I think I'm here for there being a Scottish division, if I'm honest, and hopefully the Wildcats can do well in their first season and they're still here in a year's time, because that's always difficult when you come in as a new team, right? Making yourself sustainable.
Well, presumably it's the graduation from the under-16s who did very well last year, and we'll touch upon those alignments in a little while. So hopefully they will take that momentum into this year. And yeah, I do agree, although I'm sure there are some teams who are going to miss that trip, especially if you're 18, 17, 16 years old. You might like that trip sometimes, but for those ones who have to get up on a Monday morning, it's not great. And also the finance sides of it as well, I suppose. But no, I think I agree with you. I think I'm looking forward to that division, though, although I really don't like odd numbers. Even numbers, yeah, I like even numbers. Let's talk about the North, Isaac. I'll tee you up here because although we do say the Chorley Buccaneers here, we're using our graphics of when they hadn't announced that they were changing their branding at that point. But we see a little bit of a shuffle around the northern divisions. So we have Chester and Chorley coming together, which they were separated last year, and then Titans and the Giants travel towards the west of England this time as well. So some stalwarts of the youth rankings, right?
Yeah, exactly. As you say, you got the Lancashire Buccaneers, as they're now known, who have been through youth football for as long as I can remember. Been playing against them since I was 14, and same with Manchester and Sheffield. This division is going to be an entertaining one, I think, because you've got them names that a lot of people in American football will know and have been around for a long time. So yeah, it's one that has a lot of history to it as well. So it's going to be a great division, this one.
Yeah, and it would be remiss of me to not identify the Northeast Academy Giants aren't in this side of the rankings this year, so they're not fielding an under-19s team in Division 1 nonetheless. this year, which is a shame. But Sheffield travelling across to the west of England, I suppose. That might be because of what's coming up in the Midlands division. Stuart, I'll give you a crack here because you'll know a lot of these programmes very, very well. So we now obviously see the Coventry Phoenix, as they're called now. We see Northants come up from the southern part of the draw, and it looks like a really tasty division, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's still weird to see Coventry. I know we mentioned it in the adult contact last week, but yeah, to see Coventry Phoenix. But it makes sense. Fair enough. You've got to rebrand where you've got to move, haven't you? But yeah, it's kind of the same with Birmingham, right? They kind of merged the Bulls and the Lions, and they're now an academy. And it's good to see teams putting some differences aside and merging into the benefit of, I was going to say, the kids that are playing at U19. Not a lot of them are kids, especially having been on the field with some of them. They are big grown people that would probably run me over if I put pads back on. But yeah, it's going to be a competitive division, this one. You've still got the Caesars in there that always compete. The Knights are going to have people coming up from the 16s. They're an established program with lots of quality coaching around there. Sandwell as well. My DMs would be full if I didn't mention them and how successful they were last season. So this could be a sort of competitive division where we see results go backwards and forwards. And yeah, I probably cover quite a few of their games, hopefully, during the summer season.
What's interesting is that they're all successful. A lot of these are successful adult contact teams at the moment as well. And if they're able to provide successful under 19s teams as well, Division 1 is, the closest that you get to 11 aside, isn't it, at this age? Obviously feed into the regional sides. This is 9v9, isn't it, on a Sunday? So it's very interesting to see how these can come about. But depending on what the postseason looks like, if it's anything like last year, only one will come out of here. Good luck to us picking who that might be as we preview the season going forward. But yes, that's what we look like in the north side of the division, of the conferences, if you suppose. Let's have a little look further south. Southeast remains completely unchanged there. It is what it is. We know what it was. London Warriors came out of there, dethroned the evergreen London Blitz. But again, we've still got a familiar faces there, Isaac, which I know you've talked about. You've faced them before, but we've got successful adult contact teams there linked to these academies as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think anyone who's been in a successful under 16s or 19 side would have faced at least one of the London clubs, either in finals day or plates or through the playoffs. They are successful at that level. They are, like you said, they have a presence in the playoffs. They're a presence. They're a good team. They're all good teams. The Blitz and the Warriors are two very good teams. And, it'll be interesting to see if, maybe it's Ipswich or the Renegades can, dethrone the Warriors this year and make a bit of a change for once.
I think on that point, Andy, what's interesting is, when you look at the success of clubs and who's doing well and who's doing not so well, it's you do see a lot of correlation between those adult teams and the youth teams. We talk about the Warriors, but if you think about last season, they came out of playoffs here. They ran a Brit Bowl for women. They were, Brit Bowl winners for adult. You do see those really strong youth teams building into really strong adult teams. And I think that's what's so, key about academy now, is that you are kind of building the future of your club. And, we see that, paying benefit for London Warriors at the moment because they're successful across the board.
Yeah, and it's fed into the London Blitz for decades, hasn't it? Obviously the adult contact have waned for whatever reason, and they're not been overly public around what the changes that have happened in the Blitz. But if you've still got a continued pipeline of players that can, especially along those lines, which I'm looking at two people who have played along the line at some point, and it's difficult to fill those spaces up, isn't it? And talking of teams that do it well and are reaping benefits from it, we've then got this Southwest division, which looks slightly different than what it did last year. And we've got the Rushmore Knights, the reigning champs, They're going to be joined by a new team, which is the Hertfordshire Cheetahs. They didn't have a Division 1 team last year, and now they've got the Swindon Storm as well, which I'm just checking my notes, also didn't have a Division 1 team last year, which is really good to see Swindon stepping up from Div 2, which is 7s, to Div 1, which is 9s now. So to your point, Kiwi, Rushmore have shown that they can do it right, and their adult contact team are benefiting from that, aren't they? But Hertfordshire seem to be doing it right as well. Stuart, what are your thoughts on the Southwest Division here, which is slightly closer to your neck of the woods?
Slightly, but as you say, we've got new faces, we've got established faces, we've got reigning champs. So this will be the most open for debate. Let's phrase it like that. You've talked about Hertfordshire, their adult team getting into the Premiership and establishing themselves there. Under 16s program, I believe, does fairly well. And we've spoken about graduation and the Highland Wildcats. I think this Cheetah side could be a benefit of their U16s. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that graduation class continues to compete on a bigger field. And then Swindon, again, their adult team might not be the most competitive, but it breeds that sort of ground for these, again, young athletes, I'll call them that, that's probably a fair description, to aspire to and give them that sort of role model to look up to, going, okay, I'm going to compete on this level, but I want to get to the sort of the level that these adults are playing at on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday, depending on who you are. So yeah, for me, this could be one that we break down, and rather than looking at who's going to succeed, it's okay, where have these teams come from and what do we see they're going to do, rather than who's going to finish top of this division.
Yeah.
And I think
go ahead, Kiwi.
Sorry, I was going to say, to build on Stuart's point slightly further on the 7s v9s thing, for people who don't know, in the 7s game, you are playing on the smaller size field. There's a lot kind of less space. But when you make that step up to 9s, you're suddenly on a full size field, but you're not playing 11s. So there's a lot of more wide open space. It makes your run game a lot more important because you've got those wide open kind of sidelines really that you need to cover. And I think, making that step up from 7s to full field football can be difficult. I don't know if they play special teams in U19. I think maybe they don't.
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah. No, they do.
Yeah,
so,
it's the same as the NWFL, Kiwi.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So thinking then you've then got to learn, these players have then got to learn the whole other part of the game that they've not dealt with before and playing special teams. You sometimes, and I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see some of those teams that are stepping up to that Division 1 level struggling a little bit because you've got full field, less players, covering the field, and you've got special teams added into the mix. So, I don't think we can underestimate how much of a step up that is, having seen it myself in NWFL, right? So,
yeah, it's definitely, and the line play is always the big thing. If I remember speaking to Sean Endicott for the Caesars, and spoke to him about what's the biggest challenge, and he was talking about it's the line, it's the line play, it's being able to find those big bodies. And Isaac, you've come up through the rankings. I'm sure you've looked either side of you sometimes and gone, where's the lineman going to come from next?
Yeah, it's exactly that, and it's especially in U19s where you're playing people who are built as guards, as tackles in a sense, because you don't have the tackles to the side of you. You're having to do a lot more work. You're having to do you're having to be that wide run game because, it is like it goes from very condensed to all of a sudden the field being wide open really quickly. And it is a massive struggle. And I think, again, it's a struggle from when even then you go from 9v9s to 11s. It struggles again because even though same field, just 2 extra people, it's a complete different side of the game.
And I think on the rules, just on that line part, as Isaac says, the actual rule is still 7s and 9s as both 3 down linemen.
Yeah.
You're not going to 5 like you see in 11s, but as Isaac said, where you want to play is out wide. So you're now asking your linemen to be more both those outside seal blocks to open up the sideline with the spaces. So you are suddenly asking a lot more of the same linemen playing in the same positions than they were at sevens. But, we all know, and anyone who's played line knows that, making those outside seal blocks, is a lot harder prospect than doing a down block through the middle, which you see a lot more in sevens. So it's a skill difference as well.
It's 100% because you've got the field as wide as it is for 11-11. So you might get a D lineman lining up in like a 7 tech. The people who don't know, it's like a D end and as wide as they possibly can be, like they're playing as a tackle. And as a guard, you've got to be able to get over to them and make the block before the run game or the pass is there. And it's just that you have to be more athletic in the youth game than you do sometimes in the adult game.
Yeah, and we see the same thing in the NWFL, but I think for the youth as well, it is more of a step up probably than what we see from NWFL because the physicality I think increases as well.
And you're probably still learning the sport as well, aren't you, at that age? Let alone the fundamentals. So not that adults don't have to, because we've obviously got new people to the sport at that age as well, haven't we? Special teams, holes everywhere as well, isn't there, when you've got those 9v9s? Should we have a look at the sevens then? Have a little look at the Div 2 because we've now actually got 2 divisions, which is amazing. I'm going to make sure I get the right one up because I was uploading them completely wrong. But Isaac, take us your neck of the woods. You probably know a lot of these programs quite well. They're all relatively new. We've talked about Northeast Academy Giants who have obviously decided to take a step down from 9s to 7s, and then we see 2 new faces in the Division 2. 2 new faces or 3? I think 3 actually in Yorkshire, Darlington, and Scunthorpe. You must know them quite well, though. Yeah,
playing against them more on the 16s and 19s, but yeah, I do know. You got Darlow who will take a good youth following. They've always had a good youth, even from like Flag. And and under 16s they've had a good youth setup, and it's good to see them back in under 19s because, like we say, it's going to feed back into the Darlington team adult team. You got the Northeast Academy, which is linked with the Newcastle Vikings, I believe, still, and their head coaches are the head coach of the Northumberland Mustangs, Northumbria Mustangs.
Northumbria
coaches. It's the same head coaches, so they're going to have some great coaches from a top tier books program as well. You got Scunthorpe Alpers that are just growing year on year. You'd imagined about 3 years ago that a small adult side in Scunthorpe would be, have now I think they're doing more flag stuff now and 16s, 19s in a really successful Division 1 adult side. And then my old side, Yorkshire, who had a year off last year. I'm very happy to see them back in the league. It was quite an upsetting thing last season to not see them really out of the side from the 19s. But no, it's always good when you see your old clubs back in where they should be.
Yeah, normal order is resumed up there in Leeds in particular, isn't it? So yeah, it's just interesting to see that this sort of shuffle around and the introduction of they've now got the opportunity to introduce them. It'd be interesting to see what would have happened last year with that massive South division that we had, which we will get onto the massive South division because it's coming up again. But no, it's good to see, and as you say, just even having a chance, you've got to be in the league. You've got to go through those sort of jump through those hoops the year before and stuff. And obviously Darlington and Scunthorpe have been working hard at getting that up and running because guess what? It's going to help your adult contact down the road as well as to, even if it's just getting people on the field, hitting people on the field as well. Let's have a look at this Super Max division that's in the south. So much colour, but that's because there's so many teams.
Wow.
It'll be interesting to pick the competition management team's brains on how they ended up here. But it's not too dissimilar to what we had last year. We had one South division of 7 people last year, and this year we've got 8. So it just added the 1. But the one thing that stands out to me, Stuart, is the Bristol Aztecs. So I suppose the big question to me is, where does this fit? Now, I'm not sure you'll be able to answer that, but where does this fit in the grand scheme of the Filton SGS Bristol Aztecs setup? So it's just another way of being able to get youth players on the field, isn't it? So it looks like it's a savvy move.
Yeah, I mean, those that can remember way back when, there was a competition that was run in the Bristol area that involved a lot of different teams, and kids were sort of involved with that. And I think that started this ground for, okay, can we get another unders team involved in the Bristol area? And they've got 2 successful adult teams. So if they got the coaches there and the adult players want to coach, then let's get a U19 team, which in turn feeds their adult teams. So they're doing things right as long as they're, sensible. They don't necessarily have to be super successful in year one. They just have to get a good product and get the guys in the door, get the feet under the carpet, and then they can think, okay, we can push. Following recruitment, can we challenge the guys that have really excelled in this division last year? To then go, okay, yeah, let's compete against teams in the north at finals day as well.
Yeah, I think that for Bristol Aztecs this season be big for them, because I remember, especially when I was playing, a lot of the SGS Filton lads would travel back to their hometown teams. I think I played alongside some lads and played against lads who played for the Pride. But having their own team now is just literally going to keep them all together, run the same playbook that they do in books and what the adult teams do and everything like that. And it's going to keep them all together and really advance everything that Filton, Aztec, Apache teams are all doing.
It's astounding, isn't it? What the amount of teams that they're able to get and the amount of development opportunities, because that's that. Every time we engage with SGS, whatever it's over, it's all about development, and they're sticking to that sort of mantra by introducing this team here, and it is obviously going to be a stepping stone because it's 7v7, it's tournament teams as well. So the thing that on the face of it stands out is that this is widespread across the south, isn't it? This division, but obviously in sevens it's tournament games, and so Kiwi, you'll know that well from the from the Bears, won't you? For when you had 7v7 sort of tournaments, and this is kind of the same sort of thing, isn't it? So you can get away with these big divisions.
Yeah, and let's be clear, in the NWFL, the sevens division is still playing that style of football exactly the same as the U19s are. But it does make it tough because I guess as opposed, flag tournaments are tough, don't get me wrong, but when you're playing contact tournaments and you've got multiple games, back to back in tournaments style, it is tough on the body, right? Tough on the teams. You do need decent sized playing squads to survive those tournaments in the season. So for me, that'll be interesting to see, are these teams, and presumably they're experienced, but, have they got the depth of squad to survive that tournament style football that we know is much tougher in contact leagues? Mm-hmm. I just wanted to say, though, the one thing I've been distracted about while I've been sat here looking and listening is, why does the dolphin need a swim ring? The pool dolphins. See how he's got a little swimming life aid ring, the dolphin.
I think it's a ball.
Is it a ball?
It's a football.
Oh, okay. Fair. Okay.
I can understand how it does look like a life ring, though.
Yeah, I was very confused.
A lot better.
On the south coast.
I'll give them
swimming pool.
It's a football, but it does look like very much thought it had a swim ring, and then I was like, but why did dolphins need a swim ring? So I'm glad it's a football, and and it's not me. But maybe it's just because of the size of the graphic on the screen. I'm just going to blame that.
Brilliant. Yeah, and just a final point on this is that we see obviously Somerset Wyverns, they drop down from Division 1 into Division 2. They've obviously taken a similar step to what that was a team in the north did that I've forgotten already who I'm talking about. Northeast Academy Giants. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. So they've taken that step down as well.
Yeah, I think that could be down to the Bristol Aztecs becoming being in this division as well, because I know a lot of Bristol went to Somerset, because I'm going to guess it's not too far. Stuart, help, please. How far is Somerset from Bristol?
We know geography is not Isaac's strong point. We learned last week.
It's like southern. It's not. It can't be that far. But I remember a lot of lads.
Taunton's not that far, is it, from Bristol?
Nah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I know a lot of people would go.
Exactly. Listen to him.
I like it. Thanks for that. Team effort here. I like this.
Superb. Fantastic.
I think for sure at some point we're going to have to make a map, like a UK map with the teams on it, just so we can show Isaac what the actual placement looks like beyond the north.
Beyond the north.
Pin the team on the map. Where do they go?
Yeah, exactly.
Just for you, Isaac.
It'll be
we will do that.
An inside Britball Christmas party game, probably. Just for Isaac.
100%.
I'm going to start studying now. It's fine.
You're going to have to.
Everything else I've got, I can just wait, and I'll just start doing this.
You've probably only got, between me and you losing, right? Because I am from another country, so my geography, although I'd argue maybe slightly better than yours at this point, but I'd say the
better than mine. 100% better than mine. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's have a look at. Let's have a look at under 16s then, because under 16s has changed up a little bit as well. So last year we had a Northern Conference and a Southern Conference. We had 3 divisions in each conference, and obviously tournament style games there as well, with the under 16s being 5v5 last time I checked. So interesting sort of format there as well. We have again had a Scotland well, it's not necessarily true. Last year it was called North, and it is North, but now it's called Scotland because there's more teams in the Northern Conference. So there is actually a North Conference division now as well. But this is exactly the same as last year. We've got the same teams in there than what we had last year, and we had the Highland Wildcats and the East Kilbride Pirates run away with that. So not much to add there, really. It looked pretty much the same as what it was. It'll be interesting to see how they're able to recruit, obviously, and we'll preview that as we go in. So do you mind if I skip over this one? Go on, Kiwi.
I've got a geography question. Where is Paisley? Because I've not heard of that before.
Scotland.
They're all Scotland. Well, are you confused? Was Andy saying that it was a Scotland division, but not really, but last time it was called North. So I thought we were alluding to the fact that one of them wasn't in Scotland, which is why I was very confused.
A town that borders Glasgow. Quick Google
Okay,
search.
so the same kind of realms as Glasgow, EKP, Paisley, all being quite close together.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking, not that far.
Highland being the outliers there with terms of travel and stuff, obviously being up near Inverness, I believe. So yeah, there's still a lot of travel. Anyone who lives up in Scotland will tell you that there's still a lot of travel, even though we're north of the border. So still a challenge there. So we've learned something there. Paisley, near Glasgow. Brilliant.
Paisley.
And then we have this Northern Conference, so introducing two new teams that weren't there last year in Darlington, Scunthorpe, and also Lincolnshire. So apologies for that. There's 3 there that are new, and Yorkshire Academy Assassins. So again, Isaac, I'll give you first crack at this one because you'll know these well. But again, it's great to see that Darlington not only able to introduce obviously in under 19s, but also under 16s, same with Scunthorpe. And then now we've seen Lincolnshire as well, another programme trying to grow and introducing an under 16s team this year.
Yeah, like I said before, I remember Lincoln. I remember playing them in the play when in my last year of under 16s. I remember playing them pretty much. I think every single tournament when I was playing under 16s, we played against Lincolnshire, who were top side, really good coaches, and I think it's all about the interest of the sport, and clearly now the sport's growing even bigger each year, and you can see that where now you've got 3 new teams in just one conference. It's huge. But like we said before, it's going to help their adults. Lincolnshire finished bottom of the North East 2 last season, So they'll need, youth and young blood coming into the side and, help them win their new conference for the adult side. Especially with Darlow and Scunny as well. It's going to be big for them to just see how far they can reach and, see if the success that they have on the adult field can then transfer to the 16s with the same coach, and stuff like that. And then the Assassins, who we finished third one season. Which was when we went undefeated. We should have finished first, but we don't speak about that. And if Joe Smith is listening, who has a got me every time I bring this up, it was Kaya's fault as to why we didn't finish first. And I'm still not happy about it, and I'm really angry with the fact that he celebrated before he scored. And
no.
As you can tell, 14-year-old Isaac is still 7 years later. I'm still not happy about the fact that we didn't finish first. But no.
Brilliant. You'll have to enlighten us one day and bring up that old story for sure. 100%. Let's move on then, because we've still got a number to go through. We've got a West which looks exactly like the under 19. So Lancashire Bucks and Chester, Manchester and Sheffield. So we had a little bit of a shuffle around in the north where Sheffield are no longer in this Midlands tier, which we'll get onto why in a second. And so they've got to now travel towards the northwest. And I suppose, again, what you tie up with these teams is that you've got organisations that's doing it right. You've got now the Chorley Bucks, who are now called the Lancashire Bucks, because they're tying up with the Lancashire Wolverines. Titans, need I say any more? And Sheffield Giants are on that sort of journey back to Prem football in the adult contact, and they want to do it right by feeding their teams. Rightly so, and so it's really good to see. And obviously, we get a front row seat in Chester, don't we, Kiwi, with Aaron involved there, and it's just great to see, isn't it? And it sounds like that they're going to benefit this year from an academy that I tried to get up off the ground with the Merseyside Nighthawks no longer taking part, which is obviously very sad. But
and I think like you say, Chester have benefited from that. I think to players moving over, but again, as you say, it's nice to see these kind of, like, I guess we can call them almost super clubs, where you've got youth, you've got women's, you've got adult, you've got flag as well. You've got Chester Romans playing youth flag too. So I think that's what it's all well and good having these but we can set up almost these super clubs. And I know that was, Pete's kind of vision for the future of the game, and whether that's still true with Chad remains to be seen. But his kind of vision was that we would have these super clubs that were kind of offering everything and had this really wide squad talent and coaches. So, you do see success coming to those adult teams from having this full suite of youth set up, right? So, hopefully that continues.
Let alone all of them being intertwined with Bucks as well, aren't they? All of these, obviously Chester are the only ones standing out there that don't, and they're working on that. So Stuart, having a look at the south of the north, which could just be Midlands, couldn't it? But we've got some familiar faces there. So we've got obviously Nuneaton still growing as an academy, and then familiar faces there with Leicester Panthers joining this division, and Northants, I think, again, are one of those teams that sit on the cusp of north and south, and this year they see themselves as a northern team.
Yeah, I'm just going to hark back to what Kiwi just said about like super teams and academies. All 5, pretty much, of those have some sort of link with either U19 or an adult team. Nuneaton obviously have a fantastic setup in terms of flag U16. So their kind of super team, as we call it, is their organisation probably looking down towards the flag rather than up towards contact. But still, you've got a lot of knowledge, fantastic coaching setup that supports that U16 team in the long run there. So lots of football knowledge, lots of product being put out, really good game days in terms of their tournaments. So yeah, that'll be another competitive division.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's an interesting case study, isn't it? The Nuneaton Jaguars, to see, what. I suppose without knowing what their ultimate goal is, you can't really make an opinion on what they're trying to achieve. Are they just trying to be an academy and look after those that are under 16s and below, or is there an ultimate goal to introduce adult contact at some point? Because they're, for a number of years now they've been under 16s, haven't they? So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Let's head south though, because we've got a little bit of a mix-up happening at the bottom now of the Southern Conference, because we've got some new teams come in. Obviously, we had a weird and wonderful 3-team division last year with Northants, Hearts and Nuneaton, but that's all been shaken up, and now we've got Ipswich and Kent, which have obviously been around for a while within the youth setup, but Ipswich are now introducing an under-16s team and alike, but familiar names though still, Isaac, right, with all of these teams, and it's great to see that we've got these teams across both formats.
Yeah, exactly. It's teams that have been in the youth game for as long as I think most people can remember, especially teams like the Kent Exiles, who, I remember when I was playing flag and they were just, you heard about them then, you heard about how good there was and whether, and how good they were and what the players were like and everything like that. And when you got to contact and you get to see them, like what the operations are like with a coach and everything like that. But no, this conference, it seems a little bit more rounded than last season. With you say we were just a 3-team conference. You've got some really good teams in there. You've got Hearts, who like Kent Exiles have been in under 16s forever, and then you've got some like the Wembley Stallions who and the Ipswich Cardinals could be one of the mega teams that we're speaking about. Now they've got 16s, 19s, and adults. Same with the Blitz, but the Blitz have been there for in American football forever. It seems like now.
There was certainly rumour of a women's team out that way, wasn't there, in Ipswich? I think I remember either seeing an Instagram page or something like that. To your point, Isaac, which is great. And as you mentioned, Hearts, if they hadn't have conceded that one game, I think, or that one tournament early on in the season last year, they would have been playoff teams, because they ended up finishing 4-2, and as a result, Nuneaton got through as an 0-7 team into the playoffs. So it's interesting to see what comes out of here with a number of very big programs there. If we have a look over to the West, though, again, very familiar teams. I'm trying to check to see if there's any differences to last year. So we don't have Solent in this division as they did last year, but there'll be similar foes. And Stuart, that they're relatively close to your area, I suppose, but it's not necessarily true. But we've got a South Wales Warriors under 16s team for the first time.
Yeah, so you've said it, familiar foes. They'll be looking forward to competing again. And then South Wales, it's always great to see teams enter leagues, even at the adult level, but certainly at this level, a lot of people laugh and joke about, just let the kids play. If we're getting guys in at younger ages, it's only going to benefit our adult team and also our national programme in 3 to 5 years' time. When these U16s get to 19, 20 years old, they've had 3 or 4 years of contact football. They then go to GB trials and they think, you know what, I can compete with the guys that have been in GB programs for 5 or 6 years, because they might have played U16 GB, U19 GB, and then adult GB as well. So it's not just going to benefit these super programs that we're talking about. It's adult teams, national programs as well in the long run. Yeah,
and the intertwining of the regional league, regional friendlies is all a big part of this as well. And then lastly, we've got a South division which looks entirely different to what it did last year. We've got the reigning champs Rushmore mixed in with Oxford and Berkshire. I think Berkshire are a new team this year to the under 16, so kudos to them. And they joined Solent and Oxford Saints as well. So really interesting to see these teams developing and just overall going through these alignments, seeing the clubs seemingly doing it the right way and trying to develop that pipeline quite simply sooner rather than later. And again, as you guys will have been aware and seen over socials, a lot of them are still doing that in parallel with flag football to try and introduce the sport in a different way as well. So really interesting to see. Anyone got any comments on this division?
No, I didn't have a comment particularly on division, but just one I wanted to make on U16 generally, and that's to make special the all the girls and young women who are playing U16 full contact football. They're playing against a lot of lads that in a lot of cases are a lot bigger and more physically developed than them, but they're not old enough yet to play in the NWFL leagues. And, I think in most other sports you see nationally, once you get to under 13s, you see the split of the sexes. Generally, you have girls' leagues and boys' leagues. And I think, I want to make special mention to those girls that are out there playing full contact U16 against boys, where in most other sports you don't see that. And, that's how we get youth into our women's teams as well. And, again, shout out to the teams out there that are accommodating those girls playing the sport and teaching them and training them up from such a young age, because, there's always the worry, and I can fully understand that, it's a scary prospect to play full contact sport against, males who are significantly at age 16. So just shout out to all of those girls that are taking that step up and brave enough to, put themselves out there and play the sport.
100%. Stu, you've got a better memory than me. Was it the 16s or the 19s that we were watching Rushmore, and there was who played? Hold on, Saturday Britball. Was that 19s? And it was Rushmore's safety, who was a girl, didn't look out of place at all on that field, and was covering like there was no tomorrow, filling within the run game like there was nothing. And okay, there are a number of situations where that's a special character that comes and does it and who's able to develop and stay as strong as those on the field, but also it's a mentality, isn't it? And I think that even when I was trying to work that out in the Nighthawks, the biggest conundrum that we had was, what do we do with once we get past that flag under 14s sort of age? What do we allow for girls or young ladies to do before they get to being able to join the likes of the Bears that was near us at the time? And that is a challenge for all these programs, isn't it, Kiwi? Is trying to keep them engaged, ready for the NWFL if that's the target.
Yeah, and I think, just generally where you see the biggest loss of female participation in sport is actually in those teenage kind of formative years, when you've got those kind of differences in physicality and development and all of that. So, I think any of the teams that are making, it possible and feasible and acceptable and easy for girls and, young women to play at this level, that's only helping out the sport in the long term. And, I've spoken about it before, but, whether the long-term future is that we will hopefully maybe one day see a girls' youth league, that would be nice. But for now, I think it is a big kudos to the girls doing it and the teams that are allowing it and training them and, treating them just like everybody else.
Yeah, 100%. But no, we're really excited to see what comes out of the schedules. We've just released today, recording Wednesday, released the schedules. We managed to get them together and display them nicely for everybody to see for the under 19s Division 1. We're still awaiting the fixtures for Div 2 and the under 16s. Obviously a little bit more operationally difficult because of the tournament play and so on, and who's going to host and all that jazz. So appreciate that takes a little while longer, although we have asked. So we once we find out, you will find out, because we'll give it to you as soon as we can. But nonetheless, we've still got plenty to talk about. We're still waiting NWFL confirmation for those fixtures as well, aren't we? NFFL registration's open, so we're waiting for those confirmations. But regardless, if we don't have fixtures by the time we get around, maybe next week or in the next couple of weeks, we'll tackle NWFL alignments, because there was some nice sort of introductions to and changes there across the NWFL landscape. But for now, hope you've enjoyed this little sidebar of conversation around the youth or the unders contact going into 2025. Really excited for it to all start. But for now, thank you, Kiwi, Stuart and Isaac, for your input, and thank you for those that are listening or watching, and we'll be with you again next week.